Welcome to Cockeyed Optimist, Radio Free Rock, the show where we learn, talk, and rock. This is our first episode, and it's called The First Amendment, Charlie Kirk, Obama, Newsom, and England. On my mind, get ready, get in line. In a minute, I'll be there at the front of the public square. Can I make my point real quick? Can I really make it stick? I don't know just what I'll say. All I know that Charlie's way is so much more than Charlie's shaking me to my core, and Charlie's making me tell my story. Charlie's waking me, Charlie's waking me up. Oh, now my thoughts begin changing within. When we arrive, it's all a surprise. You're right, I'm wrong. Be free, belong. Awakening mind is coming alive. Changing within. When we arrive, it's all a surprise. You're right, I'm wrong. Be free, belong. The waking mind is coming alive. So much more than Charlie shaking me to my core, and Charlie's making me tell my story. Charlie's waking me, Charlie's waking me up. One more time now. So much more than Charlie shaking me to my core, and Charlie's making me tell my story. Charlie's waking me, Charlie's waking me up. Oh, now. Hello. I am Cinda.
And I'm Sean.
And we are Cockeyed Optimist.
Yes, or so I've been told.
So you've been told.
So I've been told.
We've been calling ourselves that for many a year.
Yes, but it has been a
many
while.
A year.
It's been many a year since I feel like I've truly felt I was worthy of that name. Yes. Oh. It's been a long time. Some of you watching this, wherever it's being posted, may remember us. Some of you may be hearing about us for the first time. But we are a rock band from California. This is an odd thing to say, that we're still in California, but we're out here on a front line, for sure, trying to stand for freedom, rock and roll.
Yeah.
So what exactly, Cinda, is the point of a band, another band with a podcast?
But I don't actually know any bands with podcasts.
Lots of bands are starting to get into the podcast thing because it's a diversification of their income stream.
Well, I don't really know about that, but the point of this podcast. See, why are we calling it a podcast? It's a show. It's a radio. It's guerrilla radio.
There you go. That's number one. Number one, this is not a podcast.
What is that song? Hands Up Guerrilla Radio? Or is
Lights Out Guerrilla Radio.
See, I couldn't even remember.
Lights Out Guerrilla Radio. And it's time to put the lights out on that band, personally. But that's maybe a future show. But yeah, number one, this is a show. This is not a podcast. Number two, this is not solely for the means of promoting our music. Although we will play our music on this show and on future episodes, this is more of a vehicle for us to talk about things that we believe in, values that we espouse, and those being, as I said, freedom and rock and roll.
The American way.
Exactly. Freedom and rock and roll, the American way. We're going to learn stuff. We're going to talk about stuff that's going on. We are going to basically...
We're going to learn some history, people.
Ooh, yikes.
It's been forgotten.
That's a bad word to some people out there in our business.
I don't know why.
I don't know why.
No idea. So, it's been about a week since Charlie Kirk's passing.
And it's been a rough week since.
Well, Sean, you actually got sick. You physically got sick.
Yeah, the emotion of everything physically made me ill. And not like your typical like, oh, it physically made me ill. Like you got a little tummy ache or something like that. No, like I was out for 3 days, like
you had such a
sore
cold
throat,
that you could barely talk.
Congestion. I felt feverish, body aches,
I took him to get
chills,
a vitamin IV.
which really helped me get over. I feel like I'm still sweating stuff out. Like I'll probably appear more sweaty on camera than in future episodes. The lights do add a lot of heat, but I feel like the last couple days I've been sweating way more easily than I normally do. I don't begrudge that. That's the body's natural process of healing itself, and I'm cool with it. But yeah, that IV definitely helped me get over a healing hump, so to speak. But it really did rock me. It really did rock me mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually. You know, you try to put something out there to express compassion and empathy for a man who really stood for the ultimate exercise of freedom of speech, which was open debate, to have your ideas challenged by someone who has either an argument to make or evidence to present, and to have that discourse in the public square without fear of reprisal, you know, at least physical reprisal. And he was, unfortunately, it was the first thing I saw when I logged on to the internet for that day.
And I was able to not see that video for an entire week, and then accidentally saw it for a half second yesterday, and I felt sick right away.
Yeah.
But in my own PTSD trauma journey that I'll probably talk about on the next episode in relation to what we talk about next, but I've learned how to like compartmentalize things, and like if I think about it, I can like put a ball around it or something and like physically move it in my brain to another room of my brain, if that makes any sense at all. That's how I've had to deal with trauma myself, of just like it's not like you don't ever think of these things ever again, but when they come up, it's like, okay, they're right there in this, so take that and move it to another place. But for me, I would say the most difficult thing has been seeing all of the celebratory nature of people celebrating murder. And we want to be very clear right now on this show, murder is wrong.
Yeah, we don't stand...
Murder is murder, and it's wrong.
There's something I saw recently. It was, you know, we all know, all of us should know the 10 Commandments in some way, shape, or form. And I actually saw somebody who's, you know, a biblical scholar say, you know, thou shalt not kill is probably a very poor translation, because the original language of which that would have been written, which would have been in Hebrew, it would have been more accurately translated to murder. Thou shalt not murder.
Definitely.
And I mean, as Christians, that's Old Testament right there. So that's us and Jewish people. So that's a pretty universal thing. We have laws in this country that punish those who murder. And we don't just say one time. There's like multiple degrees in the legal system of murder. So it's
ancient law, it's common law, and it's American law.
It's ancient, common, American law, universal law.
Yes.
That murder is wrong. And it was so, if it would have been one thing if for 3 days, that video played over and over in my mind and I could not get it out of my head. But it was another thing entirely to offer empathy and compassion for not just Charlie himself. I don't know the guy. I know people who knew Charlie and worked with Charlie. So I had compassion for my friends who had a relationship with Charlie, but also to his family, his wife, his children, who were apparently at the event that he got shot at. To then see people so openly and vehemently oppose compassion and the idea that murder is just wrong. And on top of that, celebrating his murder. There's
a reason in Harry Potter that when young Voldemort asks Professor Slughorn how to make the Horcruxes and how to put his soul into inanimate objects, that he's able to do that, it's because murder fractures your soul.
Yeah.
And so actually murdering someone, but also agreeing with and believing it's okay to murder is fracturing your soul, people. So if you've had any of those thoughts, I just want you to take a moment right now and breathe and just say, I don't agree with murder. I don't have to agree and leave that hatred in my heart. I believe in compassion, life, light. And just sit with that a minute. And so the topic of this episode, we're going to talk about the First Amendment. So I think we should read the First Amendment right now.
Yeah. I was going to bring something up, but I think best leave the trash in the trash bin.
Leave the trash in the past.
Yeah.
It doesn't really rhyme.
It doesn't really rhyme, but
slightly.
We are going to, in this first episode, talk about the First Amendment because there's been a lot of conversation about the First Amendment since Charlie Kirk's assassination, the ensuing days since it. And we are going to read it directly from this little Constitution of the United States of America with the Declaration of Independence. I just want to point out one thing. This is a used copy, but I remember seeing copies of this available at Barnes & Noble for like $10 to $15.
So pick one up.
Years ago. You have no excuse. I'm pretty sure the last time I was at a Barnes & Noble, they still had some form of Constitution with the Declaration of Independence in stock at Barnes & Noble. There's Amazon.com. I know many of you out there are probably Prime members, so
it's also open source on the internet.
You can find this there, and
I'm sure it's on the Library of Congress.
Look
website.
How few pages that is in this tiny little book. It's a lot. It's very dense, but it is a relatively quick read, and for free $99 all the way up to $15 US, there's no excuse for you not to have a copy of this and to actually sit down and do what your history teacher didn't do and make you read the damn thing.
And I actually want to bring that up for 1 second. We did not read this in high school.
I did not. She went to public school. I went to private school. Didn't read it.
I only read the Constitution about 6 months ago.
One thing I will point out, though, we've talked about this in past, in private, as well as here on the show, but I did have to memorize the Gettysburg Address in sixth grade. So at least I had that. At least I knew that, but I didn't know anything about this. So what we're going to do is we're going to read through the First Amendment. Now, I want to make mention of this. There's more to the Constitution than just those amendments. This whole section of the book is all the different sections and chapters of the Constitution, and then the signatures of the people thereof, the signers, and all that stuff.
So we'll see if we cover more of this in future shows. Let us know what all you want covered, but
right now we're covering
starting
just
with
the
First Amendment of the Bill of Rights.
Yes. So, amendment. What exactly does that mean? Well, when you amend something, it means that you are either adding to or improving upon or changing something that came before it. So the idea of the First Amendment, I believe the first several amendments that comprise or comprise the Bill of Rights, is that these are the things that we need to make most explicitly understood as a result of the Constitution, and they can never be changed. So, Amendment 1, here we go. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. I'm going to read that one more time slowly with my emphasis added. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That is a long sentence with a whole lot to unpack. And for the sake of what we have said this show is going to be about today, I think it would behoove us to work in reverse order. So we start with the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Do you want to take it from here? Because
sure.
I'm welling up a little bit.
Many people think that freedom of speech, in this First Amendment, the entire encompassing thereof just means we go crazy in the streets. We can just shoot people, hurt people, whatever,
destroy
burn
property.
buildings, destroy. Key word, peaceably assemble. That's the key. You are allowed to go out in the streets and peaceably say, we're not cool with this, that, and the other, whatever it is. But once it turns to rioting, it is no longer protected in the First Amendment. So that's one thing that we need to get straight right off the bat. And in 2020, there was a lot of straight up rioting.
Yeah, I remember.
And there's been some this year in LA.
I remember going up to LA in the summer of 2020. At the time, my family, we were all still in relative contact. I mean, it's not like we really doing that much. And really, what were these government restrictions anyway on us other than trying to control, which is a whole other section of this show. But I remember driving down Ventura Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley, and I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, but I had never seen the valley quite like that. I mean, you're driving down that street and every business, large and small, high end, low end, mid end, weed dispensary, restaurant, guitar shop, McDonald's. Fancy salon. Boarded up with plywood. And I felt...
It felt like a scene from Mad Max.
Yeah, it really did. But the thing that always sticks with me is how the businesses would still try to put little messages of support on the outside to try to discourage the, let's call them what they were, rioters from destroying their businesses, stealing from their stores and their stocks. And still, like,
I actually thought it was so dead there, like devoid of people around and everything boarded up. I thought a tumbleweed was gonna go across Ventura Boulevard,
like in some very cartoonish fashion.
Yeah, it felt like a movie. And like our very first EP that we recorded in Santa Monica, studio, they probably posted whatever on Facebook or Instagram or something that they had barricaded themselves inside of the studio because people were looting the next door jewelry store and they were scared and they had armed themselves with mic stands. And if you recall that studio, the way it was set up was like there was, a kind of lobby hangout area, then an outside corridor where the bathrooms were, and then the studio. So it's like they had to barricade themselves in the studio without bathrooms for an indeterminate amount of time. Yeah. Because they were scared for their lives.
Yeah. There's been a lot of whatabouts as it relates to Charlie Kirk and trying to compare it to other killings that have happened. And the most popular one I see is George Floyd. And look at the two reactions.
Riots?
We are not the same.
Riots or prayer?
Riots or prayer.
Prayer meetings.
The night after Charlie Kirk was shot, our church, the morning after, put out a message via its text communication like, hey, we weren't going to have our corporate prayer in the morning. We weren't going to do anything today, but right now we feel an urgency to pray for the country, pray for the people, and we will pray for Charlie's family. And so it was at a smaller campus of our churches in Orange County, and we expected like a decent amount of people to show up, but this was packed to the gills. I have never seen that room so full.
Well, people were coming out into the lobby and it was standing room only.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just, you're watching these people just crying out to God, just praying for help, praying for guidance, and praying for peace. And that's kind of the difference where we see with the two situations, a peaceable assembly and a non-peaceable assembly. One is clearly protected under the First Amendment and the other isn't. So if the situation starts to get violent and dire, you can't expect your constitutional rights anymore, which is sad to say because we love to throw around that phrase, constitutional rights. But every right given by a man created by a government created by man has its limits. And that's just the fact of the matter. Then, working further in reverse, abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. That's an interesting word, abridging. Anybody who likes to read is familiar with seeing the phrase unabridged. I remember being younger and not knowing what that meant, and then finally coming to realize an abridged version of a work is a work that has been edited down for brevity, for ability to read more quickly, or you may even see certain classic works of literature. And then even like some children's Bibles are kind of abridged in the fashion that they write the stories so as to be more easy to digest for a certain audience. This says that Congress cannot make a law abridging the freedom of speech, which tells me that the full freedom of speech, the full freedom of the press is protected in this section of the Constitution, which we have not read on this show. Thus, by saying you can't change the limits of freedom of speech.
Well, and on that, the Supreme Court, as recently as 2017, unanimously said there is no hate speech exception for the First Amendment. There is no hate speech. There's only free speech. And like a year ago, Charlie Kirk's post on, is that on X? It's like, yeah. This is his post from May 2nd, 2024. Hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. So the whole point of having free speech is to secure the ability for people to say things you don't like.
And by extension, in the press, meaning that you can say it publicly in the public square. We can say it here on this show in video or audio form, or we can write it down, type it out on a piece of paper, copy it, and distribute it. That speech is protected. So no matter whether you disagree with it or not, and by the way, you are more than welcome to disagree with anything we have to say. It's your freedom of speech to do so. And we're not going to begrudge you for that. We might come at you and say, well, we think you're wrong, and this is the evidence why we think you're wrong. But that's the beauty of free speech in the public discourse and the free ability to do so without fear of reprisal.
But the freedom of press thing is the idea that the press can report what's happening. Definitely, the goal of the press should be to report it without bias and just report true information. But that has changed, and I'm going to explain why. So there's something called the Smith-Mundt Act.
Oh, boy.
Or the other name for it is the U.S. Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948. I also find the timing of 1948 very interesting because this is like a Cold War type of a law of like free speech and free press constriction because, oh, we gotta be so afraid of Russia. Oh, they're gonna nuke us. Oh, everyone hide under your desk because a desk is gonna save you from a H-bomb or a nuclear bomb. What world is this? It doesn't make any logical sense. I actually remember my mom saying, going to school in like the 60s, like they would do little jokes as like air raid, and then everyone would duck under their desk as like a joke to the teacher or whatever. And I'm like, the joke is stupid. The idea that the desk is going to save you is stupid. It's all stupid. If there's a giant nuclear bomb or something, you're all going to die anyway. But my elementary school, my high school had fallout shelters below them. I did go down there once when the school was closing. They had like stored stuff down there, you know? So anyway, 1948, I find this like right as the Cold War is starting. We end one world war, we just get into another one. That is how everything's been operating. War, 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 war. Okay, so that was when it started. And then in 72, it was amended to prohibit domestic access to information intended for foreign audiences. Okay, this meant that the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Information Agency, which I can't even believe that there's an information agency because that's straight out of Orwellian 1984.
That's very Ministry of Truth.
That is the Ministry of Truth. Okay, so that meant those two agencies were not allowed to disseminate information intended for foreign audiences with the intent that Congress, the American media, or academia would be the distributors of such information. So that was the first time it was changed, about 30 years after its origination.
So summarize that change a little bit and dumb it down.
So that first change was saying if these departments have like kind of decided to make information for someone in, I don't know, Mexico.
Okay.
Then the domestic here in the U.S., we didn't get to see that. We didn't get to know that, okay?
Okay.
So then in 85, the act was again amended, in response to Senator Edward Zirinsky's declaration that the U.S. Information Agency would be no different from an organ of Soviet propaganda. What did we just say? If its products were available domestically. So the amendment specified that no program material prepared by the U.S. Information Agency shall be distributed in the United States at all. Okay?
Okay. Basically saying government-sponsored information, which already should be seen to have a bias, is not necessarily suitable for consumption by the American public because it has an agenda.
So, why is this episode, why was my point, one of my next points, Obama? So in 2012, under Obama, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. I'm always very sus when they throw the word modernization in, because honestly,
we've updated this show, this movie, this comic book, this script for a modern audience.
Honestly, why not just make a new one? If it's like...
Or don't make anything at all.
But like the point is like, do we really need a modernization act? So that's the title of that one. Okay. This amendment allowed materials produced by the State Department and Broadcasting Board of Governors, whatever that is,
whoever
that is, to be made available within the United States. This change was part of a strategic plan and did not authorize creation of programming for domestic audiences, but rather allowed for the dissemination of materials upon request. All right, let me explain to you what that means. So it's a sort of sneaky. It's sneak speak, okay? So I'm the State Department, and I produce some material. I produced this 10-minute PSA, as it were, on whatever. I'm not gonna send it to CBS or NBC or ABC or any news outlet because that would be wrong. However, if they call me up, CEO of one of these news outlets, hi, I would like that 10-minute video. Now I send it over. That's the sneak. So instead of it, yes, it is true. Obama did not outright say that Americans can be propagandized directly to us, but they sneak speaked, and all you have to do is go around it.
And we all know that with the recent advent, they've been around a lot longer than they want to make us think they have been. These venture capital and investment firms like BlackRock and all these other people, they all have a vested interest in these companies, media companies, that they pump money into. The more that these companies want the money that they're offering, the more they're going to do what BlackRock wants them to do. And so it's the reason why you see even your broadcast television start to feel a little bent to one side and less balanced. More just
like it's a backdoor circle kind of relationship. Everyone just starts ending up holding up the interests of the others.
And is it not interesting that was 2012? Mm-hmm. And it sort of feels like a lot of this started to really ramp up around then too.
Yeah, Sean and I have this theory that 2010 was the last good year, and then everything started to just get worse in general. Like a lot of the art, a lot of the music, a lot of everything is just like, man, this decade after 2010 and now into the 2020s
sucked.
Kind of sucks.
Kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So that's the freedom of the press. Our press was manipulated multiple times in the Smith-Mundt Act, but the most egregiously, instead of it just being, we're manipulating it for the foreigners, we started getting the press manipulated against us domestically in 2012.
Hashtag thanks, Obama. And finally, we come to the one that, well, it's not the one probably closest to my heart. The one closest to my heart is precisely the one that we just went over, but the one that hits my spirit. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Friends, this is not the separation of church and state. Also, another news flash for you. Separation of church and state, as you'll see as we go through these amendments in the Bill of Rights, is not one of these.
It's not in there.
It's not even in this beginning part of the Constitution. Separation of church and state, not in the Constitution. What is in the Constitution is very interesting, though. Make no law respecting an establishment of religion, meaning no law can be made making a state-sanctioned religion.
I.e., Rome declaring Christianity the state religion.
Yes.
And that morphed into Roman Catholicism.
Yes.
That was a established
Yes.
Church of England, whatever that actually is.
Look, all that really is tangentially Catholic, just allowing Henry VIII to keep screwing whatever woman he wanted and then killing her when she didn't give him a son. That is not another show unless you want it to be. But
there is no Church of the United States of America.
There's no Church of Our Lady of America or something like that. And there can never be, because the First Amendment explicitly says that no law can be made making an establishment of religion. So no state religion. So all you people who are, all you church and state people who are so freaked out about all of these politicians that seem to want to talk about God as being their moral compass, chill out a little bit. Unclench. Touch grass.
Take a 5 seconds. What was this church and state thing actually? This was a private letter that Thomas Jefferson sent back to a Baptist church because the church, and I don't know if it was the leader or the church as a whole, thought that the government might start impeding on them practicing their religion. And Thomas Jefferson was like, yeah, you're right. It's possible. I think what we need to do is make sure there's a wall of separation or a hedge. I don't remember the exact term. You can look it up to make sure that we don't come in your church and like make you do stuff the way we want you to. Which then is the second half of this
prohibiting
phrase.
The free exercise thereof, which leads to my current public enemy number one, and has been since September of 2019. Hair gel himself, Gavin Newsom.
So, in 2020, the churches were closed. They did open for like 3 weeks. And everything was looking good. We were all happy again. But then back to prohibiting the free expression thereof. Closing the churches again. So this is how it sort of went down. First, the churches were closed, regardless of their size, to just 10 people. Okay. Then, and this is where it really gets me, Newsom banned singing or chanting. You can't tell me not to sing. We talk about people being fascists all the time. That's thrown around all the time. That is like a fascist thing to do. You can't sing. It's like Darth Vader doing the like hand thing and taking your voice away.
Taking away the voice.
So then, and that was about 80% of the state, like the most populous areas. It was 30 counties worth. Then even in-home Bible studies were banned.
Telling people what they can do in their own homes. Is that not fascist? Seems pretty fascist to me.
So, it all these weird caveats too. Then, okay, well, in the other counties, then the worship attendance is limited to 25% of building capacity or 100 people, whichever's less. So, okay, every third chair someone can sit there. This is insane. And then you still couldn't sing or chant or whatever. So, Newsom directly infringed on our First Amendment right of freedom of religion and ability to express it. He directly prohibited the free expression thereof.
And spent a better part of a year constantly playing with the rule book, constantly changing the goalposts, constantly making California ground zero for what I would refer to as COVID tyranny. You know, I think one thing that my rant did not articulate is that when the pandemic started, it's fair to say that at the very beginning, we didn't really know what was going on because it was like one day everything was fine. Then you started to hear like some whispers and some chatter. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, book shut. But you're just like, well, this is jarring. I don't know exactly what's going on. And so you're kind of like doing some of the things, even though you think they're silly, because you're just like, how long is this going to go on? But then it just keeps going on. And then it just gets worse. And it goes on and on and on. And Gavin Newsom was always one of the first people on the COVID tyranny bandwagon. You gotta, Fauci says you should wear 3 masks. You need to wear 3 masks. I saw someone literally, was that Monday at Target with 2 masks on. I don't know how you say, oh, well, people didn't really know what was going on. All I knew right away is all of this is wrong. And I was very, very uncomfortable and became increasingly more uncomfortable with all of the artists and the musicians and the filmmakers getting on board with the censorship. Because here on this show, and as the band Cockeyed Optimist, and as artists at all, our biggest enemy, our number one enemy, is censorship. And censorship brings us back to the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. And when other ideas were shut down and said they were misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, I think they made up one other one. And now we have the ultimate result of that line of speech. Death by assassination.
Literal silencing and censoring.
It's so funny to me. Like, I didn't think about making this point earlier, but I feel like I have to now. Back when we were in high school, I was part of like a class trip. We got snowed in, and so we were just like doing group activities in the lodge of this campground. And we all were, juniors, seniors in high school. And so we were talking about the future and what kind of things were we worried about. And we would go around the circle in the group, and amongst my group of like 20 kids in the circle, everybody had a different thing. I was the only one. I was 17. And I said, I got a real problem with censorship. And at the time, that was really just my response to parental advisory labels on music, because which we don't have time to cover today, but maybe everyone that's a future remember show. Tipper Gore. Yeah.
Tipper Gore.
That might be a future show. That's
Al Gore.
That's probably a future show. But anyway, like, I don't begrudge my parents this, maybe like 2%. A lot of the music that I wanted to get into had advisory labels on it. And so I couldn't go out and get those albums unless there was an edited version for the content. And so for me, it was just like, well, how am I supposed to listen to some of this good music if it's got a label on it? I mean, for my God, they labeled a Frank Zappa instrumental album with a parental advisory label because he testified against them. It was used as retaliation almost right away. So I was commenting on it in response to that. And the worst part is I was 17. That was 20 years ago. In the 2 decades of my life since then, it's only gotten worse. Between YouTube, all the social media platforms, television, heck, even streaming services. Every single aspect of media, even platforms that I will say I have not had an issue on Rumble so far. But almost every platform I have seen some form of censorship, and it only continues to get worse.
And then you had Durov, can't say, getting arrested for when he touched down in France for not censoring people. So then what does all this have to do with England?
Yeah.
So I recently read this book, and I've not read the rest in this series. It's called The Clash of Two Americas, Volume 1. Volume 1 is The Unfinished Symphony by Matthew Arrett, a Canadian dude.
Yeah, Canadian.
Dude. And this book has shaken me to my core.
Oh boy. She's going to do this a lot on the show. She's just going to start singing.
So,
what can you really say about this? Well, first off, the cover is very striking.
Yes, it is.
The image that you see on the cover is an actual painting called The Unfinished Symphony. And essentially, it is a depiction of, or actually, I don't know if it's actually called The Unfinished Symphony. But the point is, it's a real painting that is incomplete. And it's supposed to depict...
And you see some of our forefathers, but then you see these white spaces.
It's supposed to
depict... What
do
these white spaces denote?
Yeah,
well, what they denote is that when England and America were sitting down to
sign the Treaty of Paris.
Sign the treaty. War's over. We're done. You can be your own country. They refused to sit for their portraits.
Sore losers.
Sore losers. And today that would basically be like, oh, we want peace. And instead of showing up for the handshake and the photograph, they just don't show up. Yeah. That's be the equivalent. So can you really say that someone who refused to sit down to denote and memorialize the moment that they were making peace really wanted peace? I can't. And so if I were to summarize this book in one quick statement, England has not and has never been our friends as America.
And will never be.
And will never be. And I don't mean that as the English people.
Yeah, we're speaking as a government.
As a government. And it's right there in the name, the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Does that sound like it's a democracy or whatever cracy they want to use? It sounds like a monarchy. And then you can say, well, the royal family doesn't have that much power. Then why did they show up everywhere? I mean, look, they just tried to do a whole thing to impress Trump and all. Who knows what that even was? I don't even know.
Well, I mean, Trump is in the UK right now.
Whatever, but it was a whole big show of look at our monarchy-ness still, and the form of government of the United Kingdom, of England, the British Empire, it may have seemed to go away, but it still exists. Yeah. And so the clash is between the ideas of British imperialism and America, the idea of freedom, justice, for all.
And the British imperialism infiltration of certain segments of America.
Yes.
And I'm just going to say America, not the United States. Different segments of America to undermine the mission and the goals and the ideas of the United States.
And so these two ideas are incompatible.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we are going to get more into this book. I'm going to read the rest of them in the series. Thank you, Matthew Arrett, for a eye-opening, mind-blowing read. And I'm sure we're going to dig into this a lot more.
And maybe one day Matthew will be on the show.
Who knows?
That would be pretty cool.
But why does that tie into the First Amendment? We have our U.S. Constitution, First Amendment rights, and I forgot to mention, I have a little pin that has the First Amendment. And when I picked it up, I didn't even realize it's a turning point pin. We have our freedom of speech, our free expression of these things. Conversely, in the United Kingdom right now, they are dealing with the Online Safety Act.
Oh, God.
Which is basically an excuse for the government to censor people online. Their memes, arrest them. I heard one woman, she was like an older woman, I think she's about 70, telling her story of like, she has a busybody neighbor. And she saw the neighbor, like, I don't know if it was pruning her rose bushes or trying to dig her rose bush up. Like something, one of those ridiculous busybody neighbor things. And she said she saw her doing that and she filmed her from inside her house through the window because she was like, this lady's going to start some stuff for me. So I just want to have the evidence. The lady saw her filming, preempted her whatever, and called the authorities, had her arrested because she said she called her something hateful. I don't know what it was, but the woman's like, I didn't even talk to her. I didn't even leave my house.
I have video evidence to verify this.
She ends up she's the one that gets arrested because some busybody neighbor's digging or pruning her roses. I mean, that's where we've gotten to in England. And so that... Not
to mention the comedian that was arrested for jokes.
Of course. But like, I'm just saying how ridiculous and micro these can go.
Oh, yeah.
And so these ideas are incompatible. You have freedom, or you have a government who decides they're your dad, they're your nanny, daddy government, whatever, and tells you what to do, when you can do it, how much you can do it, et al., makes rule after rule after rule after rule until your freedom is crushed into a ball of something and you have no desire to resist anymore. And the end goal, please, if you've never read it, read 1984. The end goal of the Big Brother government is always to make you love it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not happy unless you love being controlled. And in America, we do not like being controlled.
Yep.
The answer to 1984 is 1776, baby. And we're going back to 1776. We want freedom. We want justice for all people.
Yep, exactly.
But we do not want violence.
Yep. We stand on freedom. We stand on
truth.
The truth.
Justice.
And the rock and roll way.
The rock and roll way.
Rock and roll is universal. And a lot of these ideas that America put out into the world through the Constitution, through the Declaration of Independence, is divinely inspired. I think it was John Adams who said that the government and the laws outlined by it all is for a religious and moral people.
And if it's not for a moral people, it doesn't even work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needless to say, these attacks on the First Amendment have led to a certain season within life in the last few years. It certainly silenced us for a very long time. we were due to have one of the busiest years we've ever had in 2020, and that was all cut off before it could even get started in March of 2020. Throughout that year and the next year, it just got worse and worse, with physical health issues finding their ways into our lives, also interpersonal band relationships getting soured, and, well, just having to figure out where we belonged in this new world. A lot of soul searching, and ultimately realizing that now's the time.
Yeah.
It's been a hell of a season.
It has.
And I don't say hell of as like a thing to say. I mean, it has been a lot of hell.
Definitely.
A lot of it.
And we've had several songs that we've written in the last few years that we've never released. And with Charlie's death last week, we realized now's the time. We're going to start releasing the songs even differently than before. We're trying to pull our old stuff off of Spotify.
And I want to make something very clear about that. We are not pulling our music off of Spotify for the same reason that people like Joni Mitchell and Neil Young and all these old fogey hippie types are removing their music from Spotify because Joe Rogan's spewing vaccine misinformation. No, he's just saying things that you don't agree with. And also, you sold your catalog to record companies.
Well, and actually,
you're just cashing out. Shut up.
It was one of your cousins was over here and said, why would you take your music off Spotify or not release new stuff on there? Is it because they don't like pay you enough or they're evil? And I'm like, actually, it's kind of both. Yeah. So we're going to release music differently. And so if you want to get our music from now on, we're going to give it to you. And you can get it at our website, cockeydoptimist.net. We're building the new site out, but sign up for our email list. We'll let you know anytime we have a new song, new video, anything like that. And we're just going to give the songs to you. And if you would like to donate and tip us, that's wonderful. But we're going to let you download it for free, and you have it, and you can share it and text it and to whomever you want. It's going to function, I guess, a bit more open source in that way. But we realize now's the time. We've waited long enough. And this is the season.
And with that in mind, we're going to close the show now. Thank you all for watching and listening to this first episode of the show. This is a song called
Seasons. We've all been played. It's time to wrap your head around. Set up set of cans. We're just pawns in a game. Conditions laid to keep us all emotional. Through fear, anger, hate, they lead us astray. In a season of silence, they unleashed violence. Now awaken defiance and find your voice again. Illusion fades. The veil falls to the ground. Like sheep among wolves, we've all been the prey.
and transmission.